Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's just going to be a bit of a quick overview video of where I'm at and also what's actually required to get the V8 out of the Discovery. It is here, it's currently sat in the garage, which means I have been completely successful in removing it. Overall, I'd say it's probably not quite as difficult as I thought it was going to be. I think I was overcomplicating a lot of stuff. The sump didn't prove to be a problem at all, and actually it lifted out quite alright. So I did very annoyingly lose about half an hour trying to split the bell housing from the engine, or the gearbox from the engine, sorry, without realising that actually I'd missed two top bolts. Luckily you can actually, with the V8, there's so much less going on here, so you can actually reach around the back of the engine and there's so much more room. You can just get to it really easy. You know, ratchet down there and undid those bolts, so that was nice and easy. Then the whole thing just split, gearbox went back, engine came forward slightly, and then yeah, just slowly, you know, up and out, got it as high as I could until it just clipped this here, and then managed to tilt it forward a little bit and then up and out basically. Didn't even have to remove the engine mounts. So the nice thing about this is so nothing protrudes past those engine mounts, and those engine mounts are narrower than the body, so yeah, it actually came out nice and easy, unlike on the TDV6 where you've got turbo hanging over one side, so you need to remove the engine mount to shuffle it over one way to get it up and out. The V8, actually I didn't need to, and I literally just hooked the crane up and out. The one thing I'd suggest is making sure when you the way you attach it to the crane, obviously try and keep your crane as low as possible because it is quite a tall engine with the sump and everything, but also make it in such a way where you can sort of, you know, lean it forward and back if you need to, because that will make it a lot easier. I didn't actually have to lean it forward very far to get it out. It was just a case of leaning it forward enough so this bit was then in front of the plastic bulkhead there. That then meant it could come up high enough. As soon as I was up high enough, that was it. It was up and out. One thing to remember, it was the same as the diesel. The auto box loom loops behind, I think it's that part of the loom there, so you have to basically feed the wires back through, so you can't just go up and out as is. But other than that, it was completely unattached, and was actually pretty easy. I think probably the most difficult bit about the whole thing of getting it out was, as I said in the last video, the fact it's auto meant some of the access was a bit naff, but actually seized bolts, because this car seems to be so much more rusty than mine, hence the fact how I'm not using this shell and chassis. Yeah, I've come across a lot more seized bolts. I did think where I'd cut the cats off, I did wonder if that was going to cause a problem, because it got quite close to the bulkhead, but it didn't cause a problem at all, so that was nice and easy. Yeah, again, as I suspect, or as I said in the last video, torque converter is just held on with 3 bolts, so that's nice and easy. And yeah, it just drops down nicely and comes out and clears everything. So what I've done now, as you can see at the moment, the flex plate has been removed. So I've removed that. I've done loads of measurements on that. I've done loads of measurements on the TDV6, and those of you that follow me on Instagram, the manual V8 manual Disco 3 on Instagram will know that I've actually now drawn up, created the cab model and drawn up the new flywheel, and that has now gone off to the people making the flywheel. So hopefully I should get a price and lead time. That will then get me an idea of actually, you know, how long this project is going to take, because ultimately that's going to be what holds me up, I think. I've still got a lot of work to do, but actually, you know, I've got 3 or 4 weeks. It's all manageable, I think. So, and I've gone through I've managed to get a lot of information over the last week that's actually made my life a lot easier. So I know in early videos I said I was going to swap the diffs across and everything, because this has got V8 diffs, which are different ratios to what I thought were diesel diffs. They're not. So actually, the ratios of a petrol V8 auto box and a diesel V6 auto box are identical. The boxes are exactly the same. The difference is in the final drive ratio between the two autos. So the diesel is a 3.53 and the final drive on both front and rear diff, and the V8 is 5.78, I think, 3.78, I think. So there's naff all in it, really naff all in it. But on top of that, the manual box and manual diffs are different to auto. So that's actually where the biggest difference is. The manual box ratios are completely different to an auto box ratios, and the final drive is something like 3.07. So the final drive is completely different. The gearbox is completely different ratios. And so I've put into a couple of calculators online and stuff and worked out what my speeds are going to be in the various gears. And as it's designed to be with the TDV6, I think in first gear I was topping out about 35 miles an hour at $5,000. Going over to the V8, leaving everything exactly as it is diff wise and gearbox ratio wise, with the V8 with the extra 2000 RPM takes me to, I think it's about 42 miles an hour, which is fine. It's going to be a bit long geared, but I worked out at sitting at 70 miles an hour in 6th, I will be doing 1900 RPM, which I think on something like this is going to be an absolute optimal RPM. It's going to give me a little bit extra on the fuel consumption, the MPG, so less fuel consumption, but I don't think it's going to be enough that it's going to make it feel really, really tall geared. And at the end of the day, I'm not after, I don't want 0 to 60 times in this. Ultimately, economy overwins speed. And at the end of the day, I've got 300 horsepower to get me going where I need to go, which is much higher than the 180 horsepower I had before. And the torque outputs of the V8 versus the TDV6, the TDV6 is actually only 10 foot-pounds more on torque than the V8, but the TDV6 makes its peak torque at about $2,000, whereas the V8 makes it $4,000. So there's going to be big differences there as well, which is hopefully going to help smooth it all out. And I've sort of decided, at the end of the day, yes, changing the diff may be ever so slightly easier with the engine out, but by no means is it impossible with the engine in. So I'm going to leave the diffs as they are. That's one massive job I haven't got to do at the moment. I'm going to keep the diffs out of the V8 as an option, but wait until I've driven it, because I don't want to go to all the effort of changing the diffs to then find actually it hasn't made much difference, and it would have been quite nice to have a few more miles to the gallon. So that's the plan with that. Some point down the line I may end up changing diffs, I don't know yet, but I can live with that. That's going to make my life a lot easier. It means as soon as I've got a flywheel, the engine can go in the car now. There's other bits on the car I want to do, but I've got a couple of weeks to do that, but I haven't got to go swapping diffs and stuff. So that's one big thing. The other thing as well is timing chain. So originally my plan was to do the timing chains just out of precaution on this. It's a relatively high-ish mileage engine, but it's not by any means what you'd call high for a V8. And doing a bit of reading online and stuff, a lot of people reckon that it's not like a timing belt. It's not just going to suddenly go. When timing chains go, they give a rattle first for sort of at least a couple of 100 miles beforehand and stuff, when it all gets warm. So you get a little bit of warning with it, and my plan, because of the size of the engine, I don't really feel happy mounting it on my engine stand. I've only got a a little 250 kilo engine stand, which in theory would take it, but it's not that nice. It also hinders me in other ways if I mount it to the stand, like with Flywheel and stuff, because I can't get to any of that. So actually I would have done the timing chains when it's in the car anyway. And if I run it for 10,000 miles and then start getting a bit of a timing chain rattle, all I've got to do is take the rad and the front of the car off, the rad and the fan and stuff, and then I've got just as much access as I would have done anyway. So I don't think there's much merit in, it's a huge expense. It's, timing chains, you've got to do all the sprockets and everything as well. So you timing chains, guides, sprockets, everything like that, all new gaskets, everything. So suddenly you're then into like best part of 600 quid just in parts, which when at the end of the day the whole project is supposed to be a bit of a budget, albeit it's ever increasing, but I am trying to do this on the cheap, hence doing it myself and not paying someone to do it. That 600 quid is going to go quite happily on something else on the car, it's and I'm currently giving the engine a bit of a health check at the moment. It's absolutely immaculate inside. All the followers and everything, cams, all looking really nice. Not even a hint of gold inside. Like oil deposits. It's really, really nice and clean inside. I can see all the timing chains. It all looks really nice. Everything just looks really nice about it. Looks like it has been very well looked after in the past. So from that front, I'm very happy with it. I'm currently going through measuring the valve tappet clearances, because this is LPG. I don't know how long it's been run on LPG, and these engines, unlike the BMW engines, don't have hardened valve seats, so they can suffer with valve recession, or valve seat recession, should I say. So that can then cause problems later down the line. I've done one side of the engine so far, bank one, and the valve clearances are as factory, which not only reassures me that the LPG system has been well fitted and well set up, but also reassures me that the engine itself is in relatively good condition, from that side of things. So I've just got to double check the other side, but as long as that side comes up the same, then overall I'm going to be very, very happy with the engine as a whole before I fit it. Because it may be a case of 10,000 miles down the line I decide, right, I want a bit more. It's all worked, it hasn't been a complete waste of time and money, so I'm willing to spend a bit more money on it. So I'll have the heads off, get hardened seats fitted, skin the head, give it all a really nice refresh, ready for another 200,000 miles. But I don't want to jump straight into that, spend a huge amount of money on an engine on a project that actually there is still a tiny chance it may not work. There's a lot of electronics, and as I've been reading recently, it's the files involved and stuff are nowhere near as accessible as I was led to believe, and it's going to be a bit of a fight when it comes to getting the electronics to talk to each other. But I'm hoping that I can basically just swap everything across from this car so it thinks it's this car, and then with the exception of the transfer box module, then I know you can replace modules and upgrade the CCF file and the body control module to talk to them accordingly. So hopefully, if all I've got to do is update one file, then that's got to be a lot easier than updating all of the modules to then talk to different things. So I think it's a bit long-winded, but actually from what I've worked out so far, bulkhead back of the wire and loom is identical car to car, so I can literally unplug the modules and just plug them into my loom. That may change, I don't know, we'll find out, but there's only one way to find out. It would appear absolutely nobody is willing to help at all with this. I can't get anything out of Gap. They are being really unhelpful, just telling me it's impossible, cannot be done, sorry, not helping. Well, alright. So yeah, I am completely on my own on this, so the only way I'm going to know is by trying. So I'm just going to have to try, swap it all across and go from there. But hopefully it's going to work, and it's going to be a pretty awesome project at the end of it. And yeah, so but yeah, so as you can see, I've been sort of tearing the engine a little bit. I want to do a lot of tidying up. I don't like the way these LPG injectors are mounted. They're never nice on any car. They've been mounted horribly, just on a horrible bracket. So yeah, I just want to do a load of tidying up this top end. You know, I want it to look nice. You know, I put a lot of effort into this. I want you to be able to open the bonnet and it actually look nice, be all laid out very nicely. And I know a lot of that, some of that isn't going to happen straight away, because I want to get it on the road now so I can test, you know, proof of concept sort of thing, and then the tidying up can come later, as I add stuff, remove stuff, figure out what does and doesn't work, you know. So hopefully I can do a little bit of tidying up on that, but then it's going to be thing. So today's thing, I'm not going to film what I'm doing, because all I'm doing is I'm just going to be pulling all the modules out of the V8 one, trying to get this bulkhead loom out, so it goes from the internal fuse box there across the bulkhead into there, and then goes to the modules that are down by the driver's footwell and the clocks. So all that lot's got to come across to the my car basically, and hopefully that then means that the car will think it's always been V8, if you see what I mean. The only difference being it's now a manual V8, but that's all to do with the transfer box module. So I'm hoping that I can get that to talk, and maybe a few changes, and maybe at that point I'm only asking for one file to be edited, not a load of files to be edited, so people might be a little bit more willing to help. So yeah, we'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, just thought I'd do a little video on actually, you know, what's involved with getting the V8 out. It's not quite as hard as I first thought it was, other than, you know, these snapped bolts and stuff, which are always going to be a pain, and they are with everything. Also, I've ordered new top suspension arms and new bolts for the lower arms. So this car, the Donor V8, it's got brand new bottom arms on it. The guy fitted brand new bottom arms, brakes, front and rear, and a load of other bits. So those bits are all coming off this car to go on my car. So I'm doing all fresh front suspension on it. So they're all coming this week. I've managed to get most of the bolts off the front suspension off mine. So hopefully that should be fairly straightforward. But the idea being, because the engine's out, I can get to everything a lot better. So if I do have to cut some bolts, it's so much easier with the engine out. So I can then swap that, so then hopefully I can get it back on the wheels by the end of the week, both cars back on the wheels. I can then get rid of this, push this out the way, then I can put my car here and start working on cleaning up the engine bay, and getting it ready to take the V8. Start swapping all the wiring across and stuff. So hopefully that's the plan. I'm sure things will come along that will end up interfering with that, shall we say. But yeah, all I can do is try. So hopefully, you know, I'm hoping in the next 6 to maybe 8 weeks to have a car on the road. Well, a Discovery V8 on the road. Yeah, it may happen sooner. Some of that is going to depend on the flywheels. I've been quoted for a remake of Flywheel of 3 weeks at the moment, so that's actually a lot better than I was expecting. I'd imagine for a fresh design there, it's probably going to be more like 4 to 6 weeks. So that's fine, I can live with that. So I've got plenty to do on the car, so yeah. Also, if anyone needs any bits off of Discovery 3, I'm now going to be at the stage where I will start letting bits go. There's certain bits that I won't let go until I've, my car's up and running, in case I need them as spares. But there will be things like front bumper, wings, all the interior, all that sort of stuff can all go. So if anyone needs any parts, just send me a message on YouTube, and I'll then get in contact and we'll work something out. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you're liking these videos. Let me know if you want to see a bit more of, maybe, I don't know, time lapses or whatever of what I'm actually doing. It's very difficult to film at the moment because we're now coming into winter, so we're getting quite dark. Lighting isn't very good. As you've seen in some of my other videos, I struggle a bit with the lighting. The GoPro isn't really very good at controlling lighting and stuff. I try and do a bit of post editing and stuff, but it doesn't really work that well. So yeah, filming at night is getting a bit more tricky. But if people want to see a bit more of the actual physical how-to rather than just an overview of what's happened, then I can do that, and I can work with that. But other than that, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.